trying to see if
Jamie, I have to tag you in the latest.
The latest what? What's going on now?
No. It's what we were talking about on my page. It's hilarious.
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys, we're actually live.
Yes.
And I just wanted to let everybody know I will not be on the Zoom tonight. We have the wonderful Vanessa Maddox who's going to lead us in. We have a couple people at different places, as you can see from the background. And ladies, it is all on you. Take it away, Vanessa.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? It was a beautiful, gorgeous day today. My name is Vanessa Maddox, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Blue Conversation Show. The ladies and I, led by the wonderful Mary Hayes, started this show last fall as one of the results of wanting to get rid of a certain ex-president, and we also wanted to inform and engage and bring women together, bring men in on the conversation as well. And so I think we've been doing this show since last October. Is that right? I'm losing track of time. I don't even know what day it is.
September, October.
And so we are here tonight.
Since before the election.
We are here tonight to talk about another very hot button topic, and that is microaggressions. So we have with us tonight Ms. Kimberly Newman, Ms. Jamie Neidig, and we're going to have a special guest this evening. Her name is Andrea Grant. Andrea is a HR executive. And when I came up with this topic of microaggressions as a show topic, she was the first person I thought about because of the work she has done for decades in the HR field. And then we're going to circle around to Jamie, who's going to give us some stats. And I am going to kick it off by giving you all the standard definition of microaggression. Here we go. Pens and paper ready. And get ready to dip into the comments section. Give us your feedback. Let us know if you've ever fell victim to microaggressions in the workplace, and we want to hear about it. So here we go. Microaggression is a noun, a statement, action, or incident regarded as an instance of indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group, such as a racial or ethnic minority. Example sentence: students pose with dry erase boards documenting their experiences with microaggressions on campus, which is the other place that they are profound. Another definition: indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group. They are not subject to daily act. They are subject to daily acts of microaggression. Microaggression is a term used for brief and commonplace daily verbal, behavioral, or environmental indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative attitudes towards stigmatized or culturally marginalized groups. Those are the definitions. So later in the show, I'm going to give you all an example, a direct example of a microaggression that happened to me just this week. So we have real life examples. So let's go to, while we're waiting for Andrea to hop on, let's go to Jamie. Jamie, can you give us a few stats?
Yes, can you hear me? Is my mic working?
Can't see you.
Okay, well, it's because I'm on my phone this week because I'm in Miami.
Oh.
So I wanted to just share, I'm reading stats off my phone that I saved. So McKinsey did a study and found that 64% of women are still exposed to microaggressions, which are in fact a form of discrimination. And you're going to find this incredibly shocking that non-white women experience it way, way more than everyone else. So if you look through the McKinsey report, which looked specifically at everyday sexism and racism, what they found is that 36% of all women have had their judgment questioned in their area of expertise. Let me make this very clear, as opposed to only 27% of men. This isn't having your judgment questioned outside of your area of expertise. So like, this isn't asking me where to go get the best brows done, because clearly you know that my brows needs a little bit of work. I'm still trying to work on that. I'll turn the camera on so you can all laugh in a minute. But this figure rose to 40% of Black women, 40%. And this is also, you know, where we want to be intersectional with this, because it's 37% of lesbian women. And to contrast that, only 16% of men surveyed said they had this experience at all. And it was 31% of all women, and specifically 42% of Black women who had this experience. And this exemplifies a really important way that these microaggressions actually result in discrimination in the workplace. Because if you're having your judgment questioned, it makes it more difficult for you to become a leader, to help your organization accomplish the goals that you want your organization to accomplish. And it also cuts down your credibility with other organizations. SurveyMonkey actually did a workplace survey too, and it came out with some very similar results, where more than a quarter of Americans, 26%, said that they have absolutely experienced a microaggression at work, and 22% were unsure, and 36% have witnessed other people being subject to microaggressions. And this is where we want to start looking to our allies. This is where we want to look into men in the workplace with us. This is where we want to look to white women to make sure that when women of color are speaking in a meeting and they're talked over or their judgment is questioned in their area of expertise, this is where we need to start actually being active allies instead of just using Facebook frames and talking about how we can help each other in workplace, how we can build each other up. So in partnership with Fortune, this survey from SurveyMonkey, it was a big pool. It was over 4,000 people, and 68% of Americans said microaggressions for them was a serious problem. And again, they're way more widespread than people seem to realize. And only 40% of workers were confident that they'd ever seen a microaggression. I think one of the things to keep in mind when we talk about microaggressions, we tend to think that this is sort of like people being oversensitive, but it's not. So it's things like being told that you're well-spoken. That's as opposed to who? Well, you know, I have the same job you do, where you expect me not to be well-spoken. Being spoken over, 28% have experienced being spoken over at work, something that women find particularly jarring. 47% say that it's upsetting, and it does cut down on our ability to contribute in an organization meeting its mission objectives. And so there's a business cost to this as well. You're simply not making the most of your talent. So in another survey, 67% think the aggressor should be made to apologize when a microaggression happens in the workplace. 47% think managers should talk to their employees about potential microaggressions. 40% think HR should step in. 30% think that aggressors should have to go take anti-bias training, and only 9% think that the perpetrator should be fired. And I am here saying that we should fire people for microaggressions, but I think that we need to, one of the reasons why we're this is, and how it not only affects our ability to do our jobs, those of us who are women, especially women of color, members of the LGBTQIA+ community, but it also is impacting businesses' ability to their objectives and at the highest levels. So if we want the US to be competitive, we need to have real honest conversations about this. And just because we put the word micro in front of something doesn't mean that it's small and has a small effect. You add all these microaggressions up and you're missing a lot of top performance from top talent. The other thing to keep in mind is your top talent will leave your organization if they're experiencing a lot of microaggressions. And it's going to be the top talent who leaves first. They have no reason to put up with this. So Vanessa, what are your thoughts on that? Kim? Did the statistics surprise you, ladies?
Go ahead. Not at all. Go ahead, Kim.
Not at all. Not at all. And I think to Jamie's point, when she said a lot of people, don't really recognize or not that they question or deny, but that they don't recognize that this is happening as frequent in their companies. Because the same thing with racism and entitlement, people don't really understand what it is. They don't really understand when it's happening. So like you said, to your point, you talk proper or you're so well spoken. No one would think that that's offensive. They think in their mind that that's a compliment. But what it's doing is it's almost like a shocking acknowledgement that you speak a way that I didn't expect you to speak. And so I'm needing to reiterate or say it to reaffirm you as a well-spoken person. Well, I have 3 degrees. I don't need you to reaffirm me as a well-spoken person. I just know that that is. And it should be acknowledged that way if you hired me for this position, because I don't need to point out in every meeting that you're well-spoken. I just assume that you can communicate effectively because you have this role, you have this job. I think people also need to kind of take a step back, because when you talk about supporters or, people who are advocates for this conversation, before you advocate for this conversation, I need you to really have a hardcore conversation with self to analyze your position on this conversation, because a lot of people who are trying to be allies don't even recognize that within themselves and their own actions, they too microaggress. So I think everybody, and it's not to say that anyone is the holder of being victimized, because we're not. We're human. And so we all have things about us that may offend any other group. But in this particular conversation, when we're talking about minorities and white women or white men, before you become an ally, I need you to first take a look at self and your own relationship with this conversation and really dissect whether or not you are even an effective ally if you don't truly understand the conversation. Because there's many people that are allies that I see them microaggress every day. And they don't even recognize that they're doing it. I've worked with people who microaggress every day, but stand up as allies and don't recognize that their behavior is what perpetuates this continual problem.
Jamie?
And I think that's part of the problem, is that we can do things that are microaggressions and not knowing we're doing them. And then it becomes really, really charged. How do we, I'm gonna say it, especially to the other women watching this, we need to not get our feelings hurt when we are corrected for a microaggression. That is an opportunity to apologize, to learn and grow, and to demonstrate that when you know better, you do better. If you are only an ally when you are comfortable and you haven't made a mistake, that's performative allyship. That is not really being an ally. And sometimes we have to sit in the uncomfortable space. And I just finished up a certification in diversity, equity, inclusion at the University of South Florida. I'm a workforce strategist, labor economist. So this is something I care about very deeply. I'm still going to make mistakes. Human brains have implicit bias. I'm going to repeat that as we're waiting for Andrea to join us. Human brains have implicit bias. All of us. So this doesn't make you a horrible human to have to come to terms with when we do these things. It does mean that you do have to come to terms with it, though. We need to make it right. We need to do better. And we need to be allies in a way that is actionable and not just for other women, particularly women of color in the workplace. And that's where we need to take a look. The best example I saw that was so telling with me was on the vice presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former Vice President Mike Pence, where you know, a lot of women, particularly white women myself, really identified with Kamala as she was talking about I'm speaking, but really a white woman was in that conversation. She was the moderator allowing this white man to speak over a Black woman and didn't intervene. So where are we, particularly the white women, are going to intervene to make sure that when a woman of color, who in this case, that was her time. Somebody should, I'm reclaiming my time. And all she could do was say, I'm speaking. How do we do that in a way that one makes us an ally, and two, then when we make mistakes and we are going to make,
Hey, Jamie, I don't know.
doesn't matter, only outcome.
Hey, Jamie.
I'm going to
you're
repeat that.
Jamie, you're breaking up a little bit, unless that's me. Kim, do you hear her breaking up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let me.
We
But
want
before she goes too far, I do
I'm
want
gonna
to
see if I can. How about a?
that's an opportunity for them to then call us, you know, when we have to then defend ourselves in those moments, when in our minds we can see everything happening. The person, like you said, that is sitting by and allowing this person to overtalk us or cut us off or you know, show hostility towards us, it kind of puts us in a position, because when we do reach a certain stature, we have no qualm with advocating for ourselves and making sure that you know that I'm speaking and that I am have the knowledge on this particular topic. And so there is some respect that needs to be given. Then we're painted in the picture of, well, you're the angry person, or why are you so hostile, or why are you so defensive? And, you know, it's kind of like a catch-22. When you allow it to happen, you're walked over, but when you stand up for yourself, you're painted in a category as if you're difficult or combative. And so again, the person that's watching this is just as guilty as the person who is perpetuating it.
And I think you said something really important there, and I'm gonna say this out. Right? When white women take on this meek role, we enable the angry Black woman trope. When we don't stand up, when we sit there and allow this to perpetuate, and we don't take an active role in shutting it down, we're not just enabling that, we are perpetuating that idea, because we're not supporting the other woman in the room. We're not saying that, yes, you're talking over her. You need to let, you know, she has the expertise, let her speak. And so when we do this thing that, you know, sometimes that I think we are socialized to do. To be fair, we socialize, you know, we're supposed to be polite and say my teeth. Women, and the reason I say that is women need to show their teeth more and sticking up for other women. So when we see this going on, we need to be real allies, because white women, when we are in these meetings and we don't stick up for women of color, we are perpetuating that stereotype, because we are forcing the people who are being talked over to have to take a more assertive stance. And for whatever, because of the societal biases, women of color, we'll say it, we have data that shows when they are assertive are perceived as being aggressive, even if the manner in which they are asserting themselves is the exact same way that a white man would.
So all of that is absolutely correct. You're not going to get any head shaking in the no direction from Kim and I. Kim, go ahead and give us an example of a microaggression that has personally happened to you. You can give names or not, we don't care. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're so much beyond names, because it's such a commonplace instance that, you know, it's just the talking about the experience. But, you know, especially with the type of work that I do, it usually is a male-dominated situation, and I usually am the only of me in the room. And but I carry 25 years of experience with me, so I'm pretty confident in what it is that I have to say and what it is that I offer. But you know, I had one situation where the microaggression wasn't obvious; it was in isolation. So we were going to remove you from the place where you need to be able to highlight and showcase your expertise. And in the picture that was painted of what it was that I was offering was in direct contrast to what it was that I was offering, but yet you were benefiting from what I was offering. And you still benefit from what I offered, but you will never acknowledge that it was offered by me. You would rather acknowledge that it was offered by someone with blonde hair and blue eyes. And when I spoke up about it, it was painted to be difficult or combative or not being a team player. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's a commonplace thing, you know, and, you know, for me, unfortunately, I'm not the type that's meek, and I'm definitely not the type that's mild, but I am the type that will create my own space and show you, you know, I'm not going to wait for you to acknowledge. I'm going to be able to I acknowledge myself and I move forward in that space. But it does happen often.
Right. So in 2009, I started an online women's community called the Girlfriend Group. And it started out as a tribute to my late sister, Valerie, who passed away surprisingly from heart disease. And so my cousin and I created this tribute to her, and it wasn't intended to grow into what it grew into. But it ended up being an online community of over 3,000 women around the globe. And our motto was network, share, encourage, and support. And I enforced that tremendously throughout the time that the community existed. And after about the second year, we were doing really well. We were being covered in newspapers, local and national. I was appearing in articles and things of that nature. Oh, here's Andrea now. And I started getting backlash, but it was really subtle. Now, the phrase microaggressions, I don't believe existed in 2010 or whatever. But now that it has a name, I can understand what was happening to me, okay? Hey, Andrea, I'll bring you up in 1 second. So I got a call from another woman, and she said to me, oh, I just saw your article in blah, blah, blah newspaper, you know, talking about the Girlfriend Group. I was like, oh, thank you. Well, thank you for, you know, reading. I appreciate it. She said, is this only for Black women? And it kind of shocked me. I wasn't ready for that. And I said, no, it's for all women. Oh, well, I was just wondering. I said, can you tell me why you asked that? And she said, well, I saw some pictures of a past event and all I saw was Black women in it. I said, well, I'm a little taken aback by your question, but I can assure you that the group was founded for all women from all walks of life. That was our tagline, motto and tagline. Andrea Grant was one of the first, she was a charter member, okay? And so folks, that was a microaggression, all right? So you're just gonna assume because you saw an article or saw us somewhere and Black women, only Black women were in the picture, that it was a Black woman organization? That's kind of an ignorant question.
Vanessa, can you explain why that's a microaggression for those that don't get it? Because in the reverse, how many things do we walk into that is all white and we are the only African American?
Let me say something.
You asked that same question.
My whole life is a microaggression. I've always been the only Black person in the room my entire career until about 2010. That's a long time. So the reason that's a microaggression is because Black women and women of color, who are usually the onlys in the room, experience this every day, 24/7. So we're not allowed to ask why your group is all white. Well, now we are. Now we can. But back in the day, we would get hoisted out on our backsides if we were to even dare ask, right? So fast forward, living in Loudoun County, a county that is still 96% white, okay? And, you know, I became an infiltrator. I became an infiltrator of all white spaces in this county. If I found out that there was a meeting going on or an event going on and there was no one like me in the room, I would find the event and I would show up. How did she find out? Because what's not going to happen is that you're not going to exclude us. That's why the I is in DEI. And that's a great segue to welcome our guest, one of my dearest, closest friends. We met about 10 years ago, Andrea, when you joined the Girls in Group.
13.
Oh God, I can't even count. So let me give a mini introduction, and I want Andrea to give her bio because she's outstanding. That's why I invited her on this show tonight. So Andrea is an HR executive. When we met, she was working for a company called Lee Hecht Harrison, and she was leading a bunch of efforts there. And I wound up at this event, and she was the speaker. She was leading the group, and she was a speaker. And when she started to speak, it just blew me away because guess what? We were only 2 Black women in the room. Okay. So, Ms. Grant.
Hi, I apologize. I'm late. I am sandwiched in between caring for an aging parent and a not neurotypical 23-year-old. So I had to take care of my dad real fast before I got on, so I apologize. And now the lawn man is here, so I apologize if you hear the lawn being cut in the background. But yeah, so thanks, B, for having me. You wanted me to introduce myself? I hate doing that. It's okay.
Yes, I know you do, but just give us a 5-second introduction.
It's gonna be 5 seconds.
5-second introduction, and then I want you to talk about your experiences as an executive with microaggressions.
Okay, so 5 seconds. All right. I'm Andrea Grant. I am a native Virginian. I love saying that because most people here are transplants. So I'm a native Virginian. I am the child of 2 integrators. So my dad integrated 2 of 3 police departments, and my mother did not integrate until she got her first job. So I have lived and breathed all types of microaggressions and not so microaggressions growing up because of that. I started out in HR in 1995 and fell in love with it. I actually went to college for interior design. So I love that, but never practiced it professionally. So I love all things HR, including employee relations, and people always kind of buck back a little bit when I say that, but I love people. So I love connecting them to opportunities, helping them improve their performance so that they can optimize whatever it is that they want to do. So that's my 5-second spiel.
Thank you. Thank you. So before you came on, our other co-host, Jamie Nidek, who's down below, she's in Miami having fun, but she's coming in and out. And Jamie read us some startling statistics. Now, Kim and I were not startled, but others might be. And one of the things she talked about was white women and, you know, other non-Black or non-women of color acting as allies to jump in. And when you see microaggressions going on in the moment, jump in and help your Black sister out. Because most of the times, if you're not a ESFJ super duper extroverted type A like me, who has no problem with speaking up for herself in any situation, what about the women that can't or don't have it in them to speak up that way? What do we do? What do they do?
That's a great question. So it's sort of like, you know, in the post 9/11 era, right? We see signs all the time that say, when you see something, say something. So that still applies to this situation as well. The bottom line is that all of us experience microaggressions. However, because as Kim said, we don't have to conform. We are always expected to conform. They don't have to conform. They don't know what a microaggression is. They may think it's, or they classify it as, oh, they're just a direct communicator. Oh, that's just how he is, right? Or that's just how she is. That's not true. Okay, that's foolishness, and it's microaggressions. And so, first of all, we have to find the voice within ourselves to speak up for ourselves and others. But also, if you see someone, it's no different than my dad is wheelchair bound. If you saw him fall out of the wheelchair, you would probably run to aid or assist him without even thinking about it. So it should be no different. Words can attack just like anything else, right? They are a form, Kim shaking her, they're a form of weaponry. And so we need to actually put different tools in our toolkit so that people can be best equipped to defend themselves and others when it happens.
Correct. Kim, well, Kim gave an example. She didn't name names like I wanted her to, but let me share with you all an incident of what I call blatant and severe microaggressions that happened to me just this week. Okay, not going to name any names. I'm just going to give you a scenario. Okay, so what I'm about to give you guys is a typical scenario of a microaggression. And then I want to talk about Clubhouse, which is the kingdom of microaggressions. Okay, so I was on a call this week, and we're having I'm helping to lead a system integration, as well as recruiting a whole bunch of what I call purple squirrels. You know what the purple squirrels are, Andrea. If you guys don't know what a purple squirrel is, in the recruiting staffing business, a purple squirrel is a hard to find candidate. I mean, you turn over 50, 60 rocks trying to find this person. And eventually you're going to find the person, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And so I have 18 purple squirrels on my desk right now. Okay. So we were on the call, and I spoke up about a way that we could improve the process of how the recs come in and how they're disseminated. Well, apparently, ladies, I must have had a very authoritative tone in my voice that day. Okay? Because my authoritative tone was called out as being disrespectful. So I'm gonna tell you exactly what I said in the conversation. I said, hey, I think this process could go a little bit better if you, as the stakeholder of this project, would take the recs, document, and then disseminate to the team so that whenever there's stoppage or interference, you will know exactly who has what rec and when. I said, I think that would really improve the process. Well, after I said that, I got off the call because I had to call these 17 candidates. I mean, you know, calling people, smiling and dialing. And then I found out later that she said that I was rude on the call and that I had a tone in my voice. Okay, how many times have I heard that in 30 years? I don't like your tone. Vanessa? What'd I say? I mean, okay, I'll try to do better, but guess what? This is me. I'm a professional. I'm a senior leader. I'm an expert in my field. Do you want me to talk like this in muted tones so that, you know, you don't feel threatened or put aside? Do you want me to have direct eye contact and smile when I'm talking? Does that make you feel better?
Mhm.
Andrea, sound familiar?
Actually, that creeped me out a little bit, but sorry, I'm just being honest. But I totally understand what you mean. I like UV, right? We were only one of two Black families in our neighborhood the entire time growing up. I was the only Black and the only Black girl throughout elementary all the way through high school that was pulled out. Back then it was called Gifted and Talented. Now I think it's AP or whatever it's called. In fourth grade, I was sent to UVA for 2 weeks to study with college kids. I was the only Black girl. And everybody gets confused about me, V. So I get different kinds of microaggressions, right? I don't get as much of the tone or things like that. What I get is people mispronounce my name after I've told them how to say my name 25 million times. That is a microaggression, right? My name is not.
Can we step on this though? Can we start on this and make sure, because one of the things that I think is really important is for people to know how to ask again if it's, I can't believe your name is hard to pronounce, but some names are harder for some of us to pronounce. And one of the things I do as my side hustle, because Vanessa says we should all have a side hustle, is I actually train feds on HR. And sometimes I have people who I don't get to see in person. I train them online now. And I often have to repeatedly ask them how to say their name. And my approach has always just been, it's important to me to say your name correctly. Would you say it for me again? And I think that sometimes people are embarrassed to ask again, but you need to just ask again, because I think what you're saying is important. It's more hurtful to say it wrong than to just ask again. Would you agree with that?
Yes and no. I don't think it's hurtful for me, but for others, sure. What I think it is I think it's blatant. Especially if I've said it to you many times. My name is not hard to pronounce. And I even go as far as to say, do you know any guys named Andre? Yes. Well, then you just add an at the end. You can't get any clearer than that, Jamie, right? So if you can't do that, then you know what I tell them? Just call me by my initials, AG. Everybody.
Exactly. And let me say something to that, Andrea, and to Jamie's question. So I think I said before you decide to be an ally, I need you to first have a conversation with yourself and just make sure that you have a clear understanding of your true position on this topic. Because if that position is not 100% clear or authentic, it is going to come across. So when we talk about things like microaggressions with name pronunciation, there is a distinct difference between someone who has a true intent to be respectful, whether they ask again or not, and saying your name properly, and someone who is dismissive of whatever your name is. I just need to acknowledge you need to say something, and that's it. So whether I call you Andrea, Andrea, or A, that is the difference. So for instance, I think it was in North Carolina when they had the board meeting and the man refused to acknowledge that the woman was a doctor. That was I'm mispronouncing the fact that doctor is before Mrs. or, whatever the other classification is. It was an intentional dismissiveness about who, or acknowledging who you are or your accomplishments. And that translates in interactions every day. That was an extreme one because you can't get doctor wrong. But there are many microaggressions that happen on the level of names or titles or roles or position. And we're not stupid. We know when it's intentional and we know when it's just a mistake. And so I don't think people need to put themselves in the position of going overboard and saying, well, I just want to do it correctly. No, if you're not being authentic, it's not going to be done correctly. If you're authentic, it will be done correctly. It's really that basic, simple principle. You know what I mean?
Kimberly just can't say my name, right? I totally get that, right? Some people just, from a pronunciation standpoint, they just can't say Andrea, right? And so that's when, but they will, as you said, they'll be authentic with me and they'll say, I'm sorry, I just can't get it right. And then that gives me permission, right? To give them permission to say something else. As you said, B calls me A, but she knows how to say my name correctly, but she has permission to do that, right?
It's a term of endearments.
Yes, but I've done that, and especially because at LHH we had an Andrea, an Andrea, an Andrea, so they couldn't get any of our names right, and so I just told them, call me by my initials. You can't get that wrong, but I had to give permission, right? So for them to be able to do that.
So while we're talking about pronouncing or mispronouncing names, that is my absolute pet peeve. And as a recruiter, I talk to hundreds of people a week. And if I see a name on a resume, the first thing I do when I get that person on the phone, I will say, hello, Mr. Jones. Or I'll say their name. I'll try to pronounce it phonetically. And then I'll say, am I pronouncing your name correctly? And almost 99.9% of the time, they are appreciative of that. It's your name. I don't care if you don't want to try and pronounce it. You should. It's not cool not to. So I make a point of doing that because I'm very aware and very mindful of how to pronounce your name properly. Okay, definite microaggression. All right. So, Jamie, now that Miss A is on with us, would you mind repeating a couple of those stats so she can make her comments on those?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go and I guess, let me sort of go back to, let me get my notes up. Sorry, I have notes. So the first thing I talked about was a McKinsey report that said 64% of women are still exposed to microaggressions. And I wanted to be clear that this is a form of discrimination. It prevents us from working to our highest potential. And it also prevents organizations from most efficiently achieving their mission. And non-white women experience these microaggressions more than anyone else in the workplace. And so when we looked at the study that McKinsey did, they looked at women, white women, Asian women, Latinas, Black women, lesbian women, and comparing these groups, they found that they all experience microaggressions at a much higher rate than men. And women of color were exposed to microaggressions more on higher numbers on every account. So that they had a list of 6 microaggressions that were the most common. 36% of all women claimed to have had their judgment questioned in their area of expertise. Again, this is in your area of expertise as opposed to only 27% of men. And this figure rose to 40% of Black women. So just, especially for the white women on the call, think about this. In your area of expertise, we all know what mansplaining is, but it is much more pronounced for Black women at 40%, and it's 37% for women who are lesbians. So when then in stark contrast to this, only 16% of men feel like they'd experienced this at all, which was compared to 31% of women, and again, 42% of Black women And this exemplifies that there's still a lot of discrimination going on. So when we think about discrimination in the workplace, we often think about somebody not getting the position that they're hired for, or the significant pay gap. But the discrimination is also the things that we do that prevent people from performing to their highest potential and contributing as much as they can toward the organization. This isn't good for the organization because it interferes with meeting mission results, and it also interferes with people's career progress. And so then it is harder to get that promotion. It is harder to get that raise because the contributions are being talked over or dismissed.
And
Do you want to go to the other ones too, or was that enough of a recap?
yeah, that's great, Jamie. Thank you. Before Ms. A responds, I want to, be very honest that for a long time, I don't think I really noticed that this was happening to me. I don't know whether I was being naive or whether I just wasn't paying attention. That's probably what it was, because I don't pay attention well. And but when I started to really notice it, it was just the over talking and the cutting off. And yeah, hold that thought. But let me say this. No, this ain't Kanye. All right. I'm gonna let you talk, but wait a minute. So yeah, can you speak on that?
Oh boy. So where do I start? So I'll say it this way. My response is this. The reason why you probably didn't realize it for a very long time is because that is the culture and that's the narrative, right, that we've lived in from the beginning of time. Think about if you went to preschool, elementary, middle, high school, college, that's how it was for us, right? I had a middle school teacher tell my parents during a conference that I smiled too much. And so for the next 5 or 6 years, I did like this when I smiled, right? And I was a straight A student, and that was the best she could come up with, right? So I internalized all of those things, probably like you, V, and probably like the other ladies or other people watching. We think about what people say about us, and we start to believe that, especially if that's the only thing that you've heard or that you've been exposed to, right? The saying, when you know better, you do better. So that applies to all of this. What I can say is that the microaggressions, the numbers really don't startle me, just because I've lived through them, just like a lot of other people have. What does startle me, though, is that even in this day and age, there are some people that just choose not to get it. Right? They just don't care. Nothing we can say or do will make them care, period. That's the part that I don't get, right? And that's the part that disgusts me. Also, we are, think about it from education, right? We go through these standardized tests. Well, we know those are some of the most racist tests on the planet. We do, right? If we look at now, the NFL is exposing the Wonderlic test, right? That used to be given to the coaches to exclude Black coaches. It's a cognitive test that's supposed to test cognitive ability. And by default, they assumed that Black men, even though this could translate to us as well, the Wonderlic test was always given to Blacks to prove that we weren't as smart as whites. So I'm giving these examples to show that it just didn't start. It's been going on for a very long time. And that's what I mean by when we put these tools in our toolkit, right? We have to know. So like Kimberly said, we can speak up, right? And we can speak out and we can call things for what they are. But if we don't know, then we are powerless. Whether it be someone's talking over you in a meeting, or if you're speaking, and they're on their phone, right? But yet when everyone else is speaking, they give their full attention. That's a microaggression, right? I just had a microaggression when I posted about this event that I immediately screenshot and sent to V.
Oh my God, you did. I was in here on my phone. I was like, what in the world is going on? And then for some reason, I could not see the other people's comments. Only his comments kept popping up.
Yeah, well, I posted about this event on LinkedIn, and I had a person, a white male who has a PhD, immediately respond and call me Marxist and tell me that I hate the country. And so me being the person that I am, because I had run-ins with this person online before, because it's like he picks certain posts that are only specific to diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging to respond to. And so he just caught Nikki, that's the other part of me, on that day. And so I responded to him very appropriately, but like Kimberly said, I used my voice. Instead of ignoring him, instead of deleting the comment, instead of conforming like I used to, he got it, and he got it right away. And I just basically said, paraphrasing, you know, that he and I have had interactions before. I've always dismissed them, deleted them, or ignored them, but I wasn't going to do that. I went on that even though he had formal education, it proved that people can still be very ignorant about certain topics. And I also explained to him that I would be more than happy to share some books or some other learnings with him so that he could better understand what I have been through. And if he didn't understand it, he couldn't speak on it.
Right.
That night, I had a white female that I used to work with that responded to me in my DM and said, I just wanted to let you know, I sent him a note and told him I didn't appreciate it and how that made him look. So talking about allies, right, Kimberly, even though she didn't do it publicly, she did address him. Now, what would have been more appropriate is if she would have done like the brother that I used to work with that posted on there and basically affirmed or confirmed, right, what I had said. She could have done that. She didn't for whatever reason. So in some way, that's also a microaggression. Because if you don't speak up, then, you know, silence is basically agreement.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I think we can say it more strongly here. Silence is choosing the side of the oppressor.
yes,
Exactly.
that's right.
That's exactly what it is.
No matter which way you call it, that's what the call is, right? That's what the play call is. So anyway, and I could go on and on and on with the microaggressions. One of the microaggressions, V, and I don't know if you remember this, but when I first met V, my hair was literally, I could sit on it. I could literally sit on my hair, literally. And I was told repeatedly, despite triple-digit record numbers with exceeding every KPI given to me and those not, I was told I could not get a promotion until and unless I cut my hair. So I could go on and on and on, but these are just the things that we experience and we go through, right? What if I had religious reasons of why I couldn't or didn't want to cut my hair, right? What if I had other reasons, right, why I didn't want to or couldn't cut my hair? That should have never come into play. My performance should have been the only indicator for me to be able to get a promotion. Now, that same person made me go on to write a business case for not only one, but 2 promotions when nobody else had to write one, despite all of my exceeded KPIs. But those are all microaggressions, right, that we all deal with. And like V said, we are so, the culture that we have here in America and the cultures that we have here and the subcultures in these different organizations have taught us to be muted, right? To tone it down, to toe the line, to be in line, to wear your hair a certain way. I could never wear my hair like the picture of the lady in the back, right? They would lose their minds.
Yeah, and for the white women in the group, I do want to echo for the white women in the group, it is still legal in most states and localities to discriminate against Black people on the basis of hair. I want to repeat that. It is legal unless you have a state or local law that provides protection. It is legal in the United States to discriminate on the basis of hair.
And while we're talking about hair, Jamie, can we just talk about this one too, V? Right? Colorism is a thing. Yes. Colorism is a real thing. You're right, Kimberly, you understand. So if there are people on the call that are people of color, they know exactly what I'm talking about. I am a light-skinned or fair-skinned Black woman with European hair. And the only thing in my hair is red color. I don't have any perm. I don't have anything else. However, V and other women of color will tell you that even though I experienced the microaggressions and I experienced the discrimination, the disparate treatment, mine is still less than theirs. Mine is still less than V's.
The brown bag is still a very real qualifier.
Prevalent.
And words that are used for darker complected, like I'm a thick woman and I am kind of middle to dark. And, you know, there's the angry, there's the I was scared type of conversation. You know, like we talk about Rosewood, you know, he was big and he was Black, you know. That this is where that thought process comes from. And people don't even, again, when you haven't dissected your own relationship with the conversation, but you're stepping up to be an ally and you don't recognize that you respond unconsciously in those same ways of gaining fear just by the perception that this person is presenting in their look. You know, and it's funny because we talked about, you know, allyship, and that is a huge thing for me because I don't need fake friends and I don't need fake allies. I'm okay with that. And that in itself can be used as a microaggression. Because when we talked about, you know, your experience and your growing up, mine was similar. I was the only African-American all throughout elementary. My first Black girlfriend came in 5th grade. I was so excited, Monica Jackson. And it was like, you know, I had finally arrived, but I didn't really know a lot about, you know, my history, a lot about my culture, because I was surrounded, you know, by something other than myself. And my mom made a pivot and sent me to Piney Woods in the deep of Mississippi, which was one of the first schools dedicated to educating African-American freed slaves in the South. And that was my first, and thank God she did, because it was my first time learning about who we really were. And unfortunately for the people that I've met after that, I then went to Howard and it reaffirmed who I was. So when we talk about a voice, my voice didn't only develop, it became amplified. And so early on, I was able to advocate for myself and advocate for the position. And it helped me to better identify as things were happening. And when you talk about, you know, being more amenable or being more complacent, there's also the idea of being more an accepted Black.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so allyship can be used as a form of microaggression because I'll be an ally to the person that's more amenable to our conversation or our relationship. And I'm okay with that. I don't need you to be my ally, but you're not going to stand in my way.
Right.
So, you know, even within our own culture, there's still conversations that have to take place with each other to be able to understand that, you know, it's okay for one to speak up and it's okay for one to not. It's a personal choice, but recognize when that's being used and weaponized.
So ladies, I hate to cut off this conversation. We're going to have a part 2 because there's so much more I wanted to talk about. It's 7:59 and I think Mary's coming in to shut us down. So
yeah, Vanessa, can we just mention that next week we have a guest coming on to talk about the hot topic that is all over the news. We're going to be talking about critical race theory.
oh Lord, we're gonna need 2 hours for that conversation.
Yeah, what is critical race theory? What is it not? We're gonna go there. We have an expert coming on, and we're having a male guest. It's not going to be just us ladies, but I hope people will come join us because this is really important. There's a lot of tremendous misinformation about what critical race theory is.
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask Mary if we can extend that time to about 1.5 hours because that's a loaded topic, even more loaded than this one is. But I would like to thank our wonderful guests. Thank you, Andrea, for popping on.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. We're gonna have a part 2 to this topic because I have a lot. I didn't get to tell you half the stuff that's happened to me.
But we have to have a part 2 because I couldn't participate.
Yeah, Mary, it was a good one, honey. When you watch the replay, you'll get it.
I heard some of it. I wanted to chime in, but I couldn't.
And definitely we need to have a part 2.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's definitely have a part 2.
We might need a part 2 over some drinks.
Oh yeah, we could have an off-camera part 2 if you want.
Yes.
That sounds even better.
I think y'all need to come down to Miami for this. Come to Miami for this.
We like that idea.
We like that idea, Jamie.
Yes. So we're going to wrap up now, ladies. Thank you so much for being on. And we will see you all next week on Blue Conversations.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a great week, everybody.
You too.
Jamie is out.